What's going on, guys? It's GoodLuckStef here, and we got another special guest. I got John with Gastronomical Bread.
You got it.
How's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for being on here. So you have a little bit of a story starting in March of this year, starting your own company, and really kind of taking it on by storm, right?
Yeah. I basically just started in March. The goal is eventually to get a food truck, but right now I can sell bread, so that's what I'm doing, man.
Yeah, so with that being said, you're in a couple of different markets right now, and you've been doing some big things for yourself in just a short amount of time.
Yeah, trying to. So right now I've got bread at down the street at the Old Town Butcher, up the street at the Fredericksburg Food Co-op, and then this week I just got into the Battlefield Country Store. And A to Z Meats. A to Z Meats was the first one.
So what's the inspiration behind bread? What gets you so excited about bread?
There's a lot that goes into it. Like, and everything just like you change one thing and the bread will show you that you messed up. Like today, like you can see this is kind of misshapen, like it's not uniform, and that's just a shaping error. Or the ciabatta's a little flat today. And so like it's really cool that you have something that you can put a lot of time into, and there's so much craft to it, and that it instantly reflects, little micro adjustments.
Yeah, and as being a creative in the production world, those inputs, especially with little details, really play a big role. Now, I didn't think that the shape of the bread would deter somebody from wanting to buy it or make it look imperfect to somebody. So it's really like that then. So there's a real etiquette to this.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you as the craftsman, you can see that, and that it's not, up to par to where you'd like it to be. So
yeah, I'm just like, that looks like really good bread.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully that's what you notice.
So what sets your Sourdough Bakery apart from other bakeries in the industry?
Yeah, well, in Virginia right now, we don't really have where we are in Virginia, we don't have any quality bread, like quality sourdough and other artisan breads. And one of the big things about bread is it's very easy to chock it full of junk with like preservatives to keep it on the shelf. And like I understand why those are there, but like I think that most people's bodies will definitely respond differently when they have good quality bread, and it's not really bad for you like most people tend to say it is.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, it's carbs.
Yeah.
I'm gonna gain weight from eating bread. I can't eat bread. I have to eat my sandwich without bread.
Yeah.
I just have lettuce and ham and
so sad.
And
bell peppers now.
Yeah, wrapped in a cucumber.
Yeah.
So can you quickly describe, before we get into each particular bread, the different bread varieties, such as the ciabatta, the sourdough, and then the Japanese milk? What are we really looking at here?
Yeah, so this right here is kind of like, this is what I'm really into right now. This is the sourdough. Okay. So this has whole wheat, white flour, and rye. Okay. And what's cool about this is that the rye I use comes from a stone ground mill that's like been more or less running since 1780, and like that's pretty
cool. So it has some history behind it.
Yeah. But I mean, this itself, it's just like a good old fashioned honest piece of bread. It uses natural fermentation. I don't know, are you familiar with that at all?
So fermentation, just very little bit when it comes to like beer.
Yeah. So the idea is you're using natural yeast in the air, bacteria. You cultivate those, and that's what gives this all of its, loft and rise. But throughout that, you do a slow fermentation where the bread has time to grow and develop flavor. And that has some other benefits for breaking down certain enzymes in the flour and other stuff.
So let's dive into one of the breads first. What are we going to go first with?
Yeah, let's go with this the sourdough first.
And that's the one you're most proud of?
Yeah.
So you say that there's no good sourdough in Virginia. So when I was at the market, I saw Great Harvest Bread Company, right?
Yeah.
What makes you different compared to somebody like them, like a franchise?
So I wouldn't say no good bread in Virginia. I think just mostly our area.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and try that.
Absolutely.
I think I haven't delved too deep into Great Harvest bread, but I don't know that they use they do more of like a white sourdough. And this is more of like a wheat multigrain. I kind of like that hearty aspect to it more than just the I don't know. To me, there isn't much dimension to just the white sourdough, but that's kind of what I want.
So with the sourdough, what's so famous about sourdough? Like, what are you really looking for in a good sourdough? Like, how would you know if this was good if you were somebody new to your...
Oh, gosh. There's a lot you can look into. So obviously there's flavor. A big thing is texture and the appearance. So when you look at the cross section of bread, you have this inside. This is called the crumb. The outside is called the crust. So you're looking for a solid crust that will kind of encapsulate it and preserve it. But then the interior, all these bubbles are from the expansion of those natural yeasts, right?
Yep.
So depending on the size of the bubble, you can tell a different story. Like if they are very big, when you're like almost approaching overproof dough, which means it's like gone a little too far, you're gonna have like lots of big bubbles. But then you also can sometimes have a brick that would be like underproofing or a couple different things. So honestly, I would just look for like a good, decent, airy texture, good flavor, and then a solid crust to kind of hold it together.
Oh, yeah. So it's almost like brisket.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot like that. Like you have that ring that everybody looks, that nice charcoal outside, and then that juicy meat on the inside. So it's very similar. Kind of even reminds me of like the ring because when you hold it up, it tapers off just a little bit right off into the bread. So it's really good.
Yeah, thank you.
And also like too, it's it has like a lot of volume to it, you know, like when you squeeze down on it, it doesn't stay compressed, it just goes right back up, you know. So that means obviously it like has a lot of air. And what would that be when it's like that?
I think there would be good strength in the dough that the dough starts with, because if the dough is weak, as in it doesn't have much gluten development, then it's just going to kind of crumble apart. It'd be more like cake, you know, as opposed to having that resilience of dough. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience working in the bakery in Wyoming. So Wyoming is where this actually all took place, where you first started a bakery, or not started, but worked in the bakery. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically I graduated college. In the same month I graduated, a bakery opened up in this small town. And there's like populations like 8,500 people in this town. But anyways, I started working there. Just being like their night guy. Like everybody would leave, I'd be in there baking cookies, you know, doing other stuff for pastry. And eventually I worked up to the point where I got to do lamination, which is really like incredibly satisfying. Lamination is things that have like layers of butter and dough. So like you think about croissants and how they're all, you know, crispy and flaky. That comes from, you know, overlapping dough and butter and then creating that whole process.
Well, yeah. So there's a real technique to this. It's not just slicing bread. There's a real art to it.
Yeah. I think the first like quality croissant took me about probably like 6 months to get to.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just like.
And here I thought I was pretty good with my Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah.
15 minutes.
That's what my dad will do. He'll pull something out of the freezer, throw it in.
And you like cry. You're like the water boy where he had the dirty water. He's like, please don't send that to your players.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So in Wyoming, so that's truly, what about the bread? Like, where does the love and the passion come from? Is it just watching it turn into the final product? Is it just because you're hands on with it, because you're mastering the technique? Like, what about it?
I think it's a combination of all those things. Like you go so deep into it, and the bread world is like, it's not just deep, it's wide. You have people that you're like, 70 years old and they're still learning. That to me is insane, that you can have, a craft that's, you're still going on that. And then I think at the same time, what's so satisfying is it's such a simple process, or not process, but like it's 4 ingredients,
Yeah.
and with all that, you get such a result that's so kind of relatable and so foundational to society in a sense, like have bread and beer since the beginning of time. Yeah.
Yeah, the easiest thing to make, especially like during the Civil War, that was huge. So what made you decide to pursue this as a career instead of just like a hobby or something you do on the side? Why go all in?
It was kind of just food is what I know. I got into it just before I went to college and like avidly pursued it. It gives me a lot of reward, and I wanted to work for myself. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to own my own business. Yep. So it was just like, go to what you know, and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the whole art of being an entrepreneur and, doing this whole thing is, just faith. It's a faith-based game because everything is subject to change. Nothing stays, nothing lasts forever. What worked one day does not work tomorrow. Yeah. What one client you had yesterday is not your client tomorrow. There's just so many different things, and mm-hmm. It's a hard process, and you can win or lose, and depending on how much you invest and the time, that can either be a make it or break it thing. So it's cool that you really took this on and took your passion and really wanted to do something with it versus just sit behind and then just wonder what if.
Yeah.
All right, so now the time is for you to take me on to my next slice here. Yeah. What are we moving on to now?
Let's go with this ciabatta here. So, basic Italian white bread. It's got olive oil, salt, and flour, and water, of course. What's cool about ciabatta is when you get it right, especially like fresh out of the oven, it can be like all nice and custardy on the interior, and you get these big holes that are great for sandwiches and other stuff. And it just has this crusty texture that really holds up to sandwiches well.
And this is just a little bit of flour for just the peel.
Yeah, so this is you use flour because this is incredibly wet. So this is like this gets into like baker's percentages, but this dough was 90% hydration, which means that for every gram of flour, there was 0.9 grams of water, which means that you're kind of dealing with like a soup mm-hmm. that you have to kind of fling around, and so you use a lot of flour to get it into the oven and get it off your hands.
Nice.
Yeah.
Place now. No. Down. All right. Let's see here. All right, let's talk about some of the challenges you had starting out, especially with the wholesale program and getting involved with getting into different stores and getting your name out.
Yeah, I think the first hurdle was information. Like, you can Google a ton of stuff, but it's having a clear path isn't exactly there for what I wanted to do. Because it's like you have different laws called cottage laws where it's like, okay, you can, bake out of your home. That's for farmers markets. And then my mom found out that there's, this, I forget what it's called, but basically you can have the Virginia Department of Agriculture come into your house as long as you have certain sanitation practices, ingredients are separate, and some other stuff. They'll come in, they'll inspect, they'll talk through your process, and then based on that, they approve you as safe to distribute to consume. Yeah, the public.
Yeah, no, and that's pretty cool, and it allows you to really start your company inside your house.
Yeah. And luckily, I have my parents. I'm baking out of their kitchen. They just redid their kitchen, so it's all nice and got a big island, and
Yeah, I was watching some of your stuff on social media, and you were working on a nice giant marble. Beautiful marble counter.
Yeah, my dad, we had our kitchen redone like 2 years ago, I think. And my dad, he's like this IT guy, and he likes to go into details. And so he's got I don't use it, but like the KitchenAid mixers, right? So he even has like this hydraulic stand that will go under the island.
Nice.
And you pull it up, and then, you work on that. Because, you're always, when you've got that mixer, you're kind of always, hauling it around the kitchen and stuff. Yeah.
That's actually really cool that you can just
yeah.
It probably saves a lot of time, a lot of hassle trying to move around. And if you got an extension cord, probably go wherever.
Yeah, he's got a wall outlet right there. So you just plug it in.
Right at the floor, yeah.
2 dishwashers, 2 sinks. Works out. It was set up because you have to have 2 separate sinks, one for dishwashing, one for hand washing. So it works out very well.
So speaking of food cert and working out of your house, one of the main questions I'm sure a lot of people have is, how do you focus on consistency, especially in a wholesale market?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's been a challenge. The biggest thing has just been repetitions, the practice of doing something over and over again. When you mess up, it's really important to take note of it, either mentally or write it down, and kind of think through with bread what might happen and affect that. So one thing I kept messing up with was dough has a life to it. And so with buns, I've got the buns for the Old Town Butcher down the street, right? And my oven can fit only a certain number, 24 at a time. So when I want to make 300 buns, it tends to be a problem. So you have to build out a baker's schedule where you just time everything out. And you have a certain life where this bread has a window as it's proofing and growing that it can be baked within. And if it goes too far, then it's gonna, turn into a pancake or whatever.
Gotcha.
So I think, working on consistency, just kind of noting and trying to be aggressive about fixing it.
All right.
Yeah.
So with that being said, jumping off the wholesale thing, how do you find stores and people to get involved with?
I just walk around distributing bread, asking to talk to people.
Samples and go in and talk to people?
Yeah. Usually it takes 3 or 4 tries. You just got to follow up with people and talk to them, develop a relationship. And that's what I...
Well, no, and that's true, and that's the biggest thing is developing relationships, talking to people, letting people know that you exist, letting them experience your product or at least see your product. I think that's one of the biggest things with social media and even with this podcast is, people want to hear your story. They want to know your why factor. And when they look at you and they see you as a professional because you truly care about what you do and you take pride in it, it's a totally different game change, especially for yourself as a business and as a person, because a lot of people would just look at bread and be like, oh, it's bread. But you look at bread and you're like, well, this is an artistry type thing. There's certain ways, there's certain looks, there's certain appeals, and to make it look exactly what you want it to be like, just like with anything else, it takes skill, it takes talent,
Yeah.
Do you create an SOP? Let's say you made this bread and it was super good that day, right? Do you write down exactly what it was that you did that day so you can try to recreate it?
Yeah, I try to. So I have, a standard formula bread recipe that I follow. And within that, I have a process. I think the biggest thing that plays into that is I need to be more consistent about the time that I mix the dough, because that starts off the life of it. And then the proofing of it kind of is where the consistency is altering right now for me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm sure, and that's the thing too, is, it's small beginnings. It's a problem now, will be a problem later when you have your truck and everything moving forward. And it's also a good thing too, because it teaches you about scenarios, how to work with different problems, how to work with different scenarios. It's not always perfect, It doesn't always come out wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the next bread, which is, I believe, the Japanese milk bread.
Yeah. So this one is pretty cool because It's kind of like a hybrid between King's Hawaiian bread and brioche. And what makes it special is that you cook a like a roux, essentially, flour, water, milk. You cook that together, and that gelatinizes certain starches in the flour, and it basically gives the bread a little bit more spring so that you can like really push down on it and it just springs back up. I think that's really cool to just implement that technique.
So is this really developed in Japan?
I believe so, yeah. Japanese, from what I understand, are very into bread nowadays. Like, they're very interested in adopting certain, like Western things.
Yeah.
And so like bread has been one of the things that's really taken off, especially the style of like white, slightly sweet bread. Yeah.
Very delicious.
Yeah, thanks. Great for like French toast or like did like a ham and cheese.
Yeah, French toast would be good because it has a thickness.
Yeah.
So you can really like cut down on it. So it's nice. And then, so how long would this take to make?
This takes about 3 hours.
And then how long does it prepare the dough for?
So that from start to finish, it's about 3 hours. Yeah, because this uses yeast, whereas these two use, that sourdough starter. So they take more time.
How long?
These take about 4 hours for this one, and then this one is like it's about 2 days.
Oh wow, 2 days. So
yeah.
And how many are you making at a time with this?
With this one, I'll do like the biggest I usually do is 16 for the farmer's market.
So it'd be 16 in 2 days.
16 over the course of 2 days, yeah.
Okay.
So usually it's pretty small, and it varies from, just depending on the order I have for the day. Yeah.
Sorry, I really like that.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to figure out how to introduce it a little more to people, because I don't know that people have experienced sourdough like this. And so it's been a little bit of a barrier where I need to just figure out how to, introduce that to people. Because it's like, oh, it's dark. Maybe the crust seems off or something like that. Yeah.
I think what you could do is start making some reels on Instagram or YouTube and start talking about the differences. Like, bring out another sourdough that you just like get at your grocery store and compare them. Like, push down on them, do a test, pull them apart, check the consistency, show off the holes, talk about exactly. Education is key. And when you can educate people, that's the best way to, essentially sell people, is because you're giving them the keys to the kingdom. Now they get to make an informed choice versus just a blind choice, Because me, looking at bread, I wouldn't know the difference until today. And now I see it as, wow, there's a great respect for it. There's a great talent behind it. There's an artistry where before it's like, bread's bread. So, something you can do to really help yourself is start talking about the differences, the values of why your bread is better for the sandwich, for, the French toast, for whatever it is that you're, marketing for, or start making things with your own bread. And then start, eating them in front of people, or, cutting, like they do the ASMR, or you just show your hands and then you make yourself a sandwich, and then you have your logo right in the center. And just stuff like that. It's fun, it's easy, and, you can really do yourself a favor by educating people, because, who's going to know unless they're into that,
Yeah, that's a strong idea. I should follow up with that.
I'll make sure you do.
Yeah. I do sandwiches right now with it, but I should do more with like the education of what the bread is. And
all right, so now that we've rearranged the table, we're going to take you through my side of the hot one. So traditionally we would have started with this, but I wanted to taste your bread and show off to the audience how great it was, so we started with you first. So what we do is we continue our conversation, but I'm going to start walking you through, and we're going to try these as we go. So the first sauce we're going to introduce you to is going to be the Rabita's Sweet Virginia Love Barbecue Sauce. It has a heat scale of number 1. It's an award-winning sauce, placing second in the Scoville. Let me just redo this and like that. And then when I bring it out, or you could even bring it out, you could start like opening it up and everything as I'm talking to you. All right, so ready?
Yeah.
All right, so the first sauce we're going to introduce you to is the Robida's Sweet Virginia Love Barbecue Sauce. It has a heat scale of number 1. It's an award-winning sauce, placing number 2 in the Scoville Awards for barbecue sauce in the unique category. Adds tangy and sweet explosion of flavor to any meat. Can be used as a glade, marinade, or condiment for burgers and hot dogs. The perfect balance between sweet and savory. Brings the taste of Virginia right to your kitchen. So this is what I replace the McDonald's barbecue sauce when I get the nuggets. And if you use the code, you can get them for $2.50 for a 10-piece. And as soon as I get home, this is what I use. And I just absolutely love the sauce. Yep.
Just do it?
Mm-hmm. One thing you're going to notice about all these sauces is the heat comes second. Because it's always flavored, it's always flavored. So Rita, the owner, focuses on just flavor, then heat. So even the hottest one, it's going to come in nice and slow, but then it's going to get hot. So moving forward with our talk here, let's talk about the process of creating a sandwich from bread to, slice, completed sandwich.
Yeah.
How does someone think of a sandwich? And how do you make one unique?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 ways to go about it. So the first way is you have a theme, like an outline. So a grilled cheese, pretty basic, bread and cheese, right? And within that gives you a framework. And within that framework, because you have constraints, you have the ability to have creativity. So you could add a spread on. You could change up the bread. You could change up the cheese. You could add in, chips or other things to adjust the texture and other stuff. So I think that's the first way. So that's, framework, tried and true. This is this type of sandwich. The other way is to take an idea from there was this one sandwich I did where it was you're familiar with chicken marsala?
No, I can't say that.
Okay, so it's like an Italian dish.
Okay.
It's, fried chicken covered in a mushroom cream sauce, typically in the U.S., and that's made with a marsala wine. So what I did was I took made some fried chicken cutlets, covered them with some mozzarella, made a marsala wine aioli, and then did that on ciabatta because it's Italian, right? And so I think that's the second way, and that's to bring something that isn't a sandwich and turn it into a sandwich. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And the same thing kind of with creating a video or a piece of advertisement. You're kind of looking at the base, and then you're okay, I can add this element.
Yeah.
I can add this element. I can add this, and then this brings it to this style, or this brings it to, this, whatever outcome that you're looking for.
Exactly, and I think it's within that that constraints, because I have the hardest time coming up with stuff until I have these are your walls, and then suddenly the creativity expands.
So you do a lot of taste testing.
Yeah, I try to.
That's good. It's good that you taste your own product. It's kind of one of those things where how could you buy something from someone that doesn't even use their own product? Eat it, produce it, work with it, whatever. So
not sold on it. They need to be sold on their own product.
Well, being sold, we have another hot sauce to get sold on, and that is the Robida's Mild Hot Sauce right here. It's a heat scale number 2. It's an award-winning sauce claiming second place in the Scoville Awards for the prepared sauce category. Delivers a delightful kick without the overpowering the dish's essence. Crafted with a blended of jalapenos, serranos, and long chilies. Versatile sauce perfect for Mexican and Mediterranean dishes. All natural ingredients, gluten-free, and free from preservatives.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Reminds me of green Tabasco.
Yeah, it has this really nice flavor.
It's got that nice green vegetal to it.
Yeah, that you taste like vegetable, like
Mm-hmm.
flavor, and almost like biting into like the grilled peppers that you get at like Chipotle.
Yeah,
It almost kind of
It's
feels
got
like
that-
biting into
that green like mineral flavor.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. And that's what I'm saying. It's always flavored, and it's always just all about different textures, different flavors, and the different sauces. Like, that one's more of like a syrupy barbecue sauce. This one is, I think, maybe vinegar based, I believe. So there's a lot of different great things about this that I do love. Speaking of loving, let's get back to this wonderful conversation. So, how do you incorporate the principles of gastronomic? How do you incorporate the principles of gastronomic? Is it gastronomy?
So it would be gastronomy.
Sorry.
Yeah, gastronomy and then gastronomical. Yeah.
That's why we get it. How do you incorporate the principles of what is it called?
Gastronomy.
Gastronomy. Okay. How do you incorporate the principles of gastronomy into your sandwich?
Yeah. So gastronomy is like the art of good eating, science of studying that good eating. And then my last name is Gassner with 2 S's, so my mom thought it'd be cool to just, combine those 2 words and have a little play on words. But basically, I try to analyze and have like a rigorous, like when I eventually get to my food truck and my sandwiches, my dad, he is my main taste tester, and he's got a very picky palate.
Good.
And so he's gonna, refine everything,
Yeah.
because I don't want to bash people, but I feel like too often you go out to eat and you're kind of disappointed for what you pay for the food.
Yes, 100% agreed.
And like, I think that anything that comes out of the kitchen needs to be, cook approved and tested and other stuff.
Yeah, and that's why in Europe, the Europeans treat food. I'm not a total expert in this field of European and their food making, but from what I understand, Europeans, especially because I'm from Romania originally, is they take their food very serious, and they take sometimes 2 days to prepare their actual meal that they're going to be eating 2 days later. And and you look at here, and I think a lot of people get so caught up in like fast food and just what's relevant and quick, or maybe Starbucks has one like a bread roll, right? And they don't know the difference of what they're eating, and I think it's kind of one of those things where educating people, showing people, kind of like the features of a car. Like, you want a car with navigation, leather seats, good sound system. Well, you want food with good flavors, good inputs, right type of textures, the true artisan experience that you're working so hard on, getting people to experience when they eat.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't connected those 2 dots, but it's like, yeah, you can have like, ciabatta, great example. You go to the typical store and or fast food joint, and they'll have ciabatta sandwich, and what you wind up with is this cakey, dry piece of bread that kind of claws your throat apart as it goes down, and that's not what ciabatta is supposed to be like. Ciabatta is supposed to be nice and light and have like this custardy interior, and it's like very moist, and still have that structurability from that. And I mean, part of that comes from the baking technique, where like you can't have as much consistency when you're dealing with ciabatta, for example, because it's a wet dough. You kind of like, ciabatta is just Italian. It is slipper, I think is what it means in Italian, because nice. you cut it out and then you kind of just throw it in the oven, and it's like very wet. But yeah, that is a great point. Like, I need to integrate that gastronomy, that education part of like, this is a good food, this is a food, and this is what it should be in its ideal form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're getting just some prepackaged manufactured version of ciabatta, and because everybody knows the name of the bread, they put the hype behind it. But is it true ciabatta? You know, does it have the shape? Does it have the texture? Does it have the springiness in the bread, the bubbles? You know, all that great stuff that you specialize in so well. Speaking of specializing, we're going to move on to our next hot sauce. This is Rabita's hot sauce, scale number 3. Authentic flavor, made with habaneros, red chili peppers, serranos, not overly spicy, allowing you to enjoy its authentic flavor. Great on everything. Versatile for various dishes, offers the delight balance of heat and flavor. A hot sauce like no other.
So this is like the mainstay hot sauce, your like basic hot sauce?
Yeah, this is like your go-to. This is like you're better than Frank's hot sauce. So if you like Frank's, you're going to like this better. Yeah, I personally love it. And like, once again, goes in super smooth, and then that heat just slowly comes up. And stays right on your palate of your tongue too, which is great. So, you know, Fredericksburg is a very close-knit town. You know, everybody knows everybody, especially when it comes to business owners and, you know, the entire markets of, you know, what people are into. How has the community been helpful to you as far as getting your name out there?
Okay. Yeah, I think the most helpful way is that people have been pretty open to trying new things and supportive of when you do something right and having that, you know, quality. So like something may be new to them, but they're like, oh, I'll give it a shot, you know, and then they try it and then they'll, you know, come back and they'll give some support. And I've got, you know, several messages from people that were like, this is awesome. Thanks for doing this. Keep doing it. And I think that's very encouraging.
Yeah, I think the voices of your community is very vital, especially, you know, as a small business. We rely on word of mouth. We rely on, you know, our friends and family, you know, sharing what we do. And, you know, we also rely on our social media, you know, and we owe it to ourselves to be out there educating people, promoting ourselves, putting ourselves out there, because if you don't, and then nobody knows you exist and you have this wonderful product, then you're not going to do anything with that. And, you know, that's going to be the most tragic thing ever, is having something so great but never bringing it to light. You know, one of the greatest things, and I say this all the time about Jeff Bezos. So, you know, Jeff Bezos had been working on Amazon for a long time, and he had a really, really good paying job. And he went to 2 of his bosses and he told them, hey, you know, I have this great idea. What do you guys think? And they said, Jeff, your idea is fantastic, and it's going to make millions and millions of dollars. But this idea is great for somebody that doesn't already have a good paying job, right? So Jeff Bezos went home. It was a long weekend, 3-day weekend, and he thought to himself, and he's like, I don't want to become 80 years old and wonder what if. So after that long weekend, he went in and he quit his job and worked on Amazon full time. Now, here's the catch side about being with the right people. Imagine if his 2 bosses said, you know what, Jeff, that's a great idea, and you know what, we're going to together give you $5 million to start. Now where they would fucking be right now. You know what I mean? But they didn't. So that's why, you know, the value of this is nobody's going to believe in what you do more than you. So if you're going to take the risk, you might as well take the risk on yourself. Because what else are you going to do? And like they say, heroes die once, cowards die 1,000 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing is, in business, you either are or you are not.
Yeah, I think it's all about that commitment and that first step probably, and then all the other successive steps that follow.
Yeah, no, it is.
Just committing to them.
And something else we're going to commit to is our next sauce, which is the Thai chili sauce. Now, this is a tantalizing Thai chili sauce made with hand-picked farm-fresh chilies, offering a zesty flavor profile and slightly sweet goodness. Provides a delightful departure from your ordinary hot sauce, meticulously crafted with the attention to flavor and texture, a perfect alternative for a discerning palate.
Let's open her up.
Let's do it. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, you went all in.
I'm gonna. I love this Thai chili style.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
Oh yeah.
You eat it, and you're like, oh, it's not gonna be hot at all. And then that slow, nice warmth that just like turns on, like you just turned on the stove or something. You know?
I don't know what it is about that Thai style of sauce too. It's just you get that little bit of sweetness, and then the Thai chilies are like the middle to the front of the tongue in this very particular way.
No, you said it. You said it perfectly. So, share some of your upcoming plans.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going with gastronomical bread?
Yeah.
Where are we seeing in the future?
How far out you want to go?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be in Hollywood, you're going to be overseas.
So the goal is, eventually have like a all along the East Coast, I'll have a bunch of restaurants, and I really want to get my best friend who's out in Nebraska out here to work with me because, you probably have somebody that you've worked with where you just get along so well, and there's like that chemistry where that person knows what to do, you know what to do, and like you're better off together with them because of the ideas that you bounce off. So anyways, I want to get them out here, but I'll have a whole, restaurant chain. As far as more immediately, it's going to be a first food truck and then a second. And then I would eventually like to get like one of those warehouses along 95 and establish a program where entrepreneurs can come and start their own food trucks.
That'd be cool. That'd be great.
One thing I'm running into right now is like, finding somebody to take a chance. And it's like, when you have skills, like, and a lot of people have the skills of cooking, especially in kitchens, and they could cook pretty well. When they need somebody to, they need an avenue and somebody to trust in them to do that. And so what I would do is like, you can rent the food truck, which is much more approachable than buying one. You can have it wrapped. It'll have a one-stop shop for like the commissary where you need to, cook all your food and have backup supply. So it's like a way to facilitate food entrepreneurs. And then we can also have like, pop-ups on the roof and have a nice stuff, just kind of the whole setup, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's good that you're thinking about, not only providing for yourself, but for providing for others. And I think that's a goal for a lot of business owners is to be in that position where you have a business model where you can have employees. So not only are you delegating business, but you're also able to give opportunity to those who want to get in that field.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, let's go into our next sauce, which is the Tequila Sunrise. Now, what's cool about this is a collaboration with 96.9 The Rock, using sunrise scorpion peppers, smoked ghost peppers, agave tequila, balanced with dried cherries and orange juice for a perfect blend of heat and flavor. Inspired by music, created with a touch of creativity, an intense heat combination with enjoyable fruity flavors adds a unique twist to your culinary creation.
This is going to be interesting. I haven't tried this one yet.
Oh yeah. You can almost taste the tequila as soon as it goes down. Are you going for another one?
Yeah. You want to get more of it.
Well, remember, we got 3 pieces left, so you need 3 nuggets. We're going to run out. So, speaking of your friend and getting people involved, what advice would you give to somebody, like maybe a younger entrepreneur or somebody that, is just out there that's passionate about bread too, to get into their own setup and to kind of get where you are,
Mm-hmm. I would say start to pay attention to whatever's around you right now. Like I worked with my first restaurant job was down the street at the log cabin, I was washing dishes, but like I made the decision to approach it and see what I could learn from it. And then I kind of carried it through and just ask questions of the business owners and the people you're working with, especially if you're in a kitchen, because there are so many different ways get into, as many kitchens. I mean, I've only been in a handful, but like you see a wide variety of different ways to do things and you pick up what you think is the best. And like kitchen work, a lot of it is about efficiency and workflow. Like if you can nail that down, you can definitely dominate. Whereas because of the nature of the work, like if you don't have a handle on that, you're just going to be drowning constantly.
Yeah.
Miserable.
Yeah. No. And that's where it comes to having a plan. It comes to actually knowing what you're doing, how to run the thing. And that's something that, in business we talk about too, is what you do, like making bread, is now not what you do anymore. That's the product. The business is totally different. And that's that structure, that organization, that schedule, that maintenance that you need so you can be on top. You can dominate. You can rule the world.
Yeah. There's always YouTube. It's YouTube University.
This is kind of like the end of the podcast. Like we're going towards the end. So what I do is this Larry King tribute. So Larry King had this segment called If You Only Knew. And it's a list of questions. And you can answer them to like the best of your ability. And, try to be sincere and, from the heart. And what we're going to do is we're going to finish out the sauces and then go through this. So it's going to be fun.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So the first question is the person you would trade places with for a day.
For a day.
If you could trade places with anybody in the world.
Oh man. I'm stumped, man. You got me. I don't know who. I'm pretty happy with my life.
Or you can say yourself, you wouldn't trade places with somebody,
I don't know, man. Do a different one.
All right. Well, if we're going to do a different one, we're going to continue on our sauce. Now, the next one we are going to work on is the Wrath of Rita. Now, this is a sensational blend of Carolina Reapers, ghost peppers, habanero peppers, masterfully combined with ripe mangoes and pineapples for a fruit-infused heat. Delivers an unforgettable journey for your palate, the perfect balance of intense heat and mouth-watering fruitness. Unleashes the limited possibilities to a fiery edge to any dish.
Cool.
Yeah, you can see which bottles are the hottest because they have the reducers on them. The ones that are very flavorful that are not as hot do not have this. So it's letting you know that you're gonna only want a little bit of this.
Mango right away.
Like I said, always flavored, always time. All right. Next question. The biggest risk you ever took?
Biggest risk I ever took. So going back to where I went to school was Wyoming. My friend and I had this leadership project where basically junior year, everybody's required to do a leadership project. And a lot of people would do like, they go to the library and read to senior citizens or stuff like that. We decided that we were going to cook dinner because we loved cooking. So we were like, we're going to get together with professors and do this stuff. But what wound up happening, it was like the end of the semester and we were like, crap, we need to go out big. So what we did was we were like, let's rent out a restaurant. And so we rented out a restaurant and they were like, we'll do a tasting menu, dinner in it. So we like planned out like 9 courses where it was like meshing, trying to mesh Wyoming into a tasting menu. And then we had like 65 people show up. We paired wine and stuff. Nice. And we I think we were out like $4,000 at the end. Like we didn't recover that. But I mean, the way people came together and the way everything happened, it was one of those events where there's a lot of logistics and you don't think it's all going to turn out. And there's something very particular about when you're about to put out food and people are expecting it, you got to deliver. And when you
People
don't,
get mad. They get angry.
yeah. There's that just, reputation at stake. So I think that would be the most rewarding thing or risky thing I did.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, guilty pleasure.
Taylor Swift.
Okay. So our next sauce, which we are going to, is the peri peri. Now this one is pretty awesome because this brings flavor of Portugal to your plate. The spicy kick of heat is mixed with garlic, fresh lemons, and other flavorful ingredients. African bird-eye chili adds a signature mouth-watering flavor. Perfect for chicken or fish dishes. Offers a combination of sunrise, warmth, and mouth-watering flavor. And this is number 4 on the heat.
Whoa.
Oops.
You
I
hit it.
like it that much, yep.
It's there.
It came out.
That's got some heat right away.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're at number 4 on the heat scale. The last 2 were on number 4. We're about to hit number 5. All right. The best compliment you ever got?
I think my dad telling me he was proud of me. Yeah.
I have to agree with you on that one. What never fails to make you laugh?
One of my good friends doing impressions of Key and Peele.
The worst piece of advice you ever got?
I think reasonably, like set realistic goals.
Well, I'm gonna give you another worst piece of advice is the Signal One. A collaboration between Always Flavored and Maltese Brewing Company blends extremely hot pepper beer with Carolina Reapers, smoked ghost peppers, and mango habanero flakes. Packed with serious heat with a balance of sweety fruitness, takes the world's famous hot pepper beer to the next level. A sauce that brings the heat challenge to your taste buds.
Hot beer?
Yeah.
Pepper beer?
Hot pepper beer.
Man, never heard of that before. Here we go.
You're going to want to put a lot on this one.
Okay. Nice and juicy.
Something you wished you were better at.
Selling people, talking to people. Yeah.
See, with the Signal One, it goes in really smooth, right? It wasn't hot right away,
Yeah.
right?
It was like
It comes in.
almost like chocolate and mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it comes up.
Yeah. So, guys, this has been an awesome podcast. Thank you so much for being on with me and sharing your story. It's really cool to see people taking their dreams, their passions, their ideas to the next level because they say the graveyard is one of the richest places in the world because that's where you can find ideas, visions, inventions, thoughts, creative minds that never came to light. All of that died with people. And the problem with a lot of the world is you get that wrong advice, like think realistically or think rationally, and in business and in life, I think that's bad advice. I think you should live in, what's that band called? Fleetwood Mac, play the way you feel type deal, you know what I mean? Just like that in life. And, there's so many people that are going to sit there and say, oh, it's a bad idea. Oh, you're not going to do that. And I think what they're really saying is they can't do that. They won't do that.
Yeah.
They don't have what it takes. And a lot of it is just showing up the next day. It's as simple as that. There's no real secret to it. It's just consistency.
Yeah. You got to live with you. So, why let other people make decisions on your life?
Well, yeah, and do you want to live a life where you get told how much you're going to get paid, you work the same amount of hours regardless if it's more or less, the pay is the same, and you're a slave to a boss? Now, don't get me wrong, people need jobs like that, and if that's what your profession and you love what you do, all power to you. But as a creative person, I have to be in charge. I can't do it for somebody else because I'll just get fired.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm a bad employee. It's just without passion, there's nothing. And Nelson Mandela says, there's no passion in playing small. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that, it's grit. It's a hard work. It's messing up and then saying, you know what, I'm going to do it better. So
Hey, you just gotta
you
do
got
it,
dude.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time, and then it's 1 truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks, restaurant, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, you
it's
got
all
it.
coming.
Gonna make my dreams happen.
Why
Hope
not?
somebody else makes theirs too.
Yeah, well, if you don't, somebody else is gonna come up with the idea. And remember, like Jack Ma says, it's not about how many people did it, it's who did it best. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on, Stefan. This was a blast, man.
yeah, well, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.